Welcome to the Sourcing Hero podcast, produced by Una, a group purchasing organization that empowers sourcing heroes, and Art of Procurement, the world's largest procurement podcast network. I'm your host, Kelly Barner. The goal of the Sourcing Hero podcast is to capture the epic stories of people who are rising up and beating the odds to create exceptional value within procurement, directly from those heroes themselves. Today, my guest here on the Sourcing Hero podcast is Matthew Wright. Matthew is the founder and CEO of Specright and a packaging expert. He has over 25 years of experience in packaging, a constantly changing and highly strategic category for many procurement professionals. So, hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Kelly, it's great to be here. I love the procurement space and excited for a conversation today.
Oh, good. Then you've come to the right place. And I've already teased that your area of expertise is packaging, but I know just enough to know that there's a lot included in that. So what else should people know about your professional journey up to this point?
Yeah, packaging is just such a magical place because I've got to see really about everything being made from, I say chickens processed to cosmetics to automotive cars. To any sort of military products to really about anything you can think of, because in packaging it's really the horizontal against all industries. And so I've had a chance to be in hundreds of different factories watching great people make great products. And so that's kind of the excitement part about packaging that isn't always told.
Well, I love the idea that we're setting this up as a magical place. I think it's a well-earned description. And in fact, based on our previous conversation in preparation for today, we had actually talked about really opening people's minds to this idea by starting with a deceptively simple question. What exactly is packaging?
Well, it's a deceptively simple question, but highly dynamic answer, right? It really, I love the question because I don't think in our day-to-day lives we really understand the impact the packaging has and what a broad definition. And when I headed down the technology road and building technology, the technologist world was really shocked. It's probably the most challenging thing to get technology around. And the reason, to your question, is packaging is cosmetics, right? Packaging is, an automotive transport carrier or racking system. Packaging is the brown box that we all love to hate, comes from, Amazon or others. So packaging is this really broad, dynamic word that really can encompass a lot of things. And kind of you look at it from the other direction too, is like you have primary packaging, which is what maybe food products come in. And then you have secondary packaging, which is the box that those food products get put into. And then you have tertiary packaging, which is the shrink film, the pallets, and that helps it, become mobile. So it's a really dynamic space and quickly and rapidly changing and under tremendous pressures today.
Now, you know what I think through as you share all of that, we certainly live in the era of e-commerce. And so you start to think about all those different kinds of packages. There's the ones where, it's sealed plastic and you pretty much just accept the fact that if you open it, you're making a trip to urgent care because, you're going to get cut. But there's also packages that are part of the experience of buying and opening something. And so it's a very functional or utilitarian thing, but it's also part of the customer experience. So when we think about how this starts to impact a business's success, ability to make money, what are some of the business challenges or objectives that end up playing out in this category of spend?
Yeah, and it's a selfless plug for my book, the evolution of products and packaging. And what's happened over the last 20 years is the relationship between a product and a package has become symbiotic. And, historically, I always say like people throw, kind of anything into any box and ship it anywhere. And today, to your point, part of the experience of a lot of product, whether it's e-com or direct off the shelf, is really the relationship of the package to the product. And your emotional feelings of that experience of the product is greatly tied into the package. And if you think about, to your question in e-com, getting something to the house, and I think we would definitely, even I feel this way, is if the box is crumpled or it's dirty, like you have this negative impression of the experience. Yes. And so it's changed the dynamic and the importance of packaging, all the way from, if you notice today in e-com, you probably get boxes yourself where it's printed on the inside, so you open it, it's kind of brown, it's ugly on the inside, it's beautiful color towards the product. And that is a whole new way of manufacturing, a different cost element. And sourcing all these different materials has become really challenging. And I think, obviously you'll appreciate this, is one of the unsung heroes is the procurement professional. I mean, it's a massive job that's trying to keep up with what I call SKUzilla, sustainability, regulatory, supply chain challenges. And on top of it, a consumer's expectation is rising of that experience. And so there's a lot there to unpack.
Oh, was that a pun? Did I catch a pun just there, Matthew?
You got to have a couple humorous things in packaging, right? So.
Now we're getting into packaging humor. One of the things that strikes me as well as I start to think from a procurement rather than a consumer point of view is that some of what you've talked about, I would categorize as indirect spend. And some of what you're talking about, I would categorize as direct, but then some of it kind of lives in the funny place in between. How should companies, and certainly procurement teams in terms of how they're supporting the selection process, think about what they're communicating directly and indirectly or not communicating based on the packaging that they choose?
Yeah, no, so you're dead on. I think the cost allocation of packaging today, hopefully in most companies is being recognized and being appropriately accounted for. It's a really hard conversation to have, that as the complexity rises for all the reasons we just listed, that obviously there's not cost pressure, right? As there's more SKUs, the sourcing materials drop, or order quantities drop, or as some of the materials that need to be used to create this visual imagery obviously are more expensive. And so there's this real, I think, optionality that procurement has to provide the business, which is, yeah, here's everything we want to do, and here are the options that we have in front of us, and let's sit down and collectively talk about what is the right level of spend, or what's the right level of attention around this packaging or quality that needs to be given it, so that everybody's happy. At the end of the day, these companies have margin and they need to make margin on selling product. And as packaging prices are going up for several reasons, this has to become a collaborative, kind of non-siloed discussion within companies, led by procurement and really led by optionality, if that makes sense.
Well, and as we start to think about the execution of that, sort of the data component of Explodes, because you've already talked about, I think that's funny, SKUzilla. I'm definitely going to remember that. But even within each SKU, all of the specifications that go with every specific SKU that you're actually looking to source, buy, and use, what are some of the most common data challenges that you see procurement teams sort of muddling through when they're trying to capture and then decide between all these different specs?
Yeah, no doubt. And backing up, I just got to give credit where credit's due, because I'm not that creative. SKUzilla came from Kellogg's, which did a whole write-up years ago about this proliferation of products out in the market. And so it's a great term. It's actually, they have a great animated imagery around it, so you should look it up. But yeah, so you go to the explosion of the SKUs, just obviously, as we know, I talk about, you can't even find original anymore, or needs to say original. There's multi-varieties based upon type of retail process it's going to go through, type of consumer it's trying to attract, global taste. All this takes kind of a same core product, and just use something simple like a cracker. And it exponentially changes the amount of packaging or different types of packaging you need to buy, and all that as data. And I think one of the challenges over time, because we never planned for this, right? It just kind of came upon us where we just kept adding and adding and adding. We've created this mountain of wasteland of data. Like it's duplicated against duplicated against duplicated. And a lot of times talk to companies and they're like, hey, we have 50,000 specifications. And you really boil it down from a technology standpoint, they might have 10,000, right? And it's a lot easier to buy, source, create answers, analytics on 10,000 versus 50,000. So the first thing is just getting your arms around what's out there, cleaning it up, organizing it, and starting. And then don't let yourself reduplicate that. You can do that through technology. So, and then lastly, control the data. Data historically for packaging is sat at the manufacturer of the packaging's hands. And the reason, if you think about that symbiotic relationship of packaging and product, packaging is as important as product is today, but the companies making product don't make packaging. And so they rely on somebody else, but they need that data today to be sustainable, to do all the things we just talked about. So there's even a tightening relationship of product and packaging data that's got to happen today as this just keeps, the journey forward is going to be even more complex, right? So that's some of the challenges of the data and how you go about, getting your arms around it.
Now, you mentioned your book, Evolution of Products and Packaging, and I'm actually curious about the evolution piece of that. We could look at some things in business and in life and say, you know what, clearly we've reached at least the best we need for now. I think of, I just recently saw a documentary that pointed out that that little screw piece on the bottom of a light bulb is still the original that Thomas Edison invented. And of all the different things that have changed about light bulbs and electricities and sockets and devices, that piece remains exactly stable. I even think in the packaging spirit, banana peel, right? I would consider that packaging very effective. It's compostable. Not a lot of change there, but I imagine that in the rest of the world of packaging, there's a lot of rapid change that if you don't specialize in the space, you might not even be aware of. Well, how would you characterize or what comments would you make about just how quickly things are changing in this area and maybe some of the forces that are driving that change?
Yeah, definitely. No, and I love the banana peel. That's just a packaging at its core, right? Protecting what the ultimate product and giving you the experience that you're expecting. So it's a great analogy. And to your point, packaging is really in a fast change, and it's the type of packaging. And I'll explain. There's two kind of primary driving forces. So it's the type of packaging, how that packaging is manufactured, obviously the logistics of that manufacturing and packaging. All of that's changing, and obviously now the data importance is rapidly growing. And two primary drivers that I think are doing that. One is, and without a doubt, sustainability. Really, and that's almost as complicated word as packaging, because right, you could unpeel that forever. But for the various reasons, we're looking for alternative sources or products that have circularity or products that can do certain things. And that's a force upon which has been talked about for years, but really starting to get kind of governmental or regulatory around it. And so it's creating challenges and opportunities for procurement. And then ultimately the consumer, which we just talked about. We want, and you made the joke before about having your fingers cut. We want consumable, easy to use packaging, want to understand where it's coming from, what the source is, what the value of that product is. But the consumer's definitely rising towards more and more, more and more personalization, customizations, things that really speak to them. And so you've got these two big influences, regulatory / sustainability, and just the human consumption part coming together to really push innovation through packaging.
So procurement starts with certainly business objectives, works their way through a mountain of data, hopefully collects multiple competitive bids from a range of suppliers that are probably satisfying those business needs in different ways. Is there something that procurement can be thinking about to ensure that when the business makes their final decision about what design will be used or what supplier will provide it, that they're thinking big enough, that they're not just thinking, okay, who has the most cost-effective design that's pretty close to what we're already using, or maybe you throw in a little bit of sustainability into that decision. Is there a way that we can encourage the business to be more comprehensive in their approach to making decisions around what to choose, who to work with, and then understanding sort of the downstream value that gets created far and above performance and cost savings and all of that, just to make sure they're coming with us on this journey?
Yeah, no, and little unknown fact that the whole technology road I headed down was really to make the sourcing or procurement lives better. I spent most of my career in packaging in the procurement offices, and really enjoyed and had great relationships. And what I saw was just a tremendous amount of reactive work being done, right? It seems like it's just this constant push and pull to make sure that all the amazing things that happen in the buy side happens and the product's ready and it's there on time for the right cost. And my passion with working with procurement is to get them to the other side, get them to the analytical side, get them to the side where it's proactive, where the system, like technology offers us in the rest of our life, offers them options. Here's some options. Spend some time thinking about what are the better options, to your point, so that when they go forward to the company or to the stakeholders and they say, hey, here's my recommendation, the system through data and through learnings and through technology is really parsing up those options and using their skill sets to really pick the best option and present it as such a best option. And I think, we're such a reactive mode in manufacturing and product production that really pushing it through to the proactive side is where I'm looking. I think procurement can have the best impact on the cost of the business, the speed of which things get to the market, the value of the product. But it's got to be done through data. It's got to be done through technology. It's just, you can't ask more of them, if that makes sense, from just try harder. I think they're trying as hard as they can, right? So we've got to collectively think about consumer type technology, proactive, and tying that information into multiple feeds. So it's giving them a real clear picture of geoeconomic issues, logistical issues, consumer preference issues. And so if that makes sense, I envision it very clearly. Like, you just got to get on the other side of the table at the procurement pushes, and you got to push. You got to demand that that's the world you want to live in of the companies you work for today.
Well, and it feels like we're sort of moving into the visionary perspective. We've, I think, made a good case that there's a lot more to packaging than people who don't specialize in the category might be aware. And it's also one of those areas where, when I talk to people about procurement that don't work in procurement, I find it helpful to sort of leverage my time working in grocery retail. And everybody goes to the supermarket, and so you get good analogies. Everybody is also a direct or indirect consumer of packaging. And so this is a great example of where procurement can somewhat stay in their traditional space, but leverage every single thing that we're really good at and start moving in the direction of top line revenue impact. I think it probably creates a good transition for me to bring you into sort of our traditional wrap question here at the Sourcing Hero. So Matthew, I'm going to give you two choices. You can pick either one, and there is no wrong answer. This is sort of one last opportunity for us all to learn about your perspective. So the choices are, what does the idea of a sourcing hero mean to you? Or if you'd like something a little bit broader, what do you think heroism looks like in a business context? So I'll leave that for you to pick an answer.
Yeah, no, I'll take the first option there if I'm picking options. And we just released a really fun video. It's called the Margarita Pizza Manufacturing Company, and it tells a story of numerous people. One is we call Barb in the picture, and that is what I think atypical procurement champion has been in the past. Just knew everything, post-it notes everywhere, spreadsheets everywhere. And really, I think the hero is the one that transitions to this proactive world and really forces and pushes the organization to kill the silos, work uniformly, understand the value that procurement can have on the company's top line, which you mentioned, and how it really is an integral part to the business, not just a afterthought or a must-do piece. So again, the champion is the one that really can transition through this amazing time period we're in and really get on the proactive side and help drive the business as a leader.
That's fantastic. Matthew, for people who have listened to our conversation today and either want to learn more about your book, sound you out on packaging topics, or just plain connect because they found what we discussed today interesting, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. And feel free to. I love packaging. I'm involved in numerous boards at different packaging schools, and it's just a great space. It's done a lot for me. So I'm always happy to answer questions and get back. And I'm really easy to find, and that's somewhat probably dangerous in terms of putting it out there, but it is. It's Matthew, Matthew, @specright.com. So that's my direct email, no filters. And then secondarily, obviously on LinkedIn, same thing, Matthew Wright at Specright. And so look forward to talking to your audience and really enjoy this conversation today, Kelly.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sourcing Hero podcast. Join us again next time for more true stories of sourcing and business heroism performed by your colleagues and peers. Look for the Sourcing Hero wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe. Finally, don't forget, sourcing heroism is taking place all around us every day. Keep your eyes open and you're bound to see it. Until next time, I'm your host, Kelly Barner. Stay well, and always remember that you can be a hero too.